Welcome to the Koffeine Cafe, where we don't serve coffee, we serve updates on unsolved mysteries. So welcome to Declassified Lost Content, or DLC. But before that, check this out. Ooh, we move!
And speaking of us, I'm Z.
And I'm Lisa. I got too excited.
Okay.
Ever since our first Declassified with Welcome Home, a lot's been going on with the Welcome Home community. There were definitely a lot more things that we couldn't fit in our video, and even more from fans, artists, and writers that probably still wouldn't be able to fit in this one. However, we did have a lot more to say after attempting to make a definitive guide to the project's prologue. As mentioned, this is a follow-up to our previous video, so you might want to go back and check that out for the full context before diving into this one. Okay, you ready? You back? Okay. Cool. Let's go. What we missed. So as thorough as we tried to be with our coverage on Welcome Home, obviously we wouldn't be able to get everything, from tiny details we overlooked to updates that came around after the initial recording. There may have been a number of things that went over our heads in our deep dive into the neighborhood. So, what were they? Okay, I'll need to be transparent. By the time I'm researching this, the site was taken down temporarily, and the next time it goes up, there'll be a new update. So I looked through the Welcome Home Neighbors subreddit to check out some details that I didn't get to see the last time, and the very first thing that comes in the form of some image file names, something we're familiar with from the guestbook. But there are even more with images of Wally Darling. There's this one with the file name happy-to-see-you.png, this next one saying thank you for inviting me in.gif, and this iconic image titled you're here.gif. So it appears that Wally is aware that you're seeing him, and we all know how he interacts with us, but what stands out among these is thank you for inviting me in. Like most file names and interactions we've had with Wally, they tend to be a simple acknowledgement, or that one bit where he says stay quiet. But thank you for inviting me in stands out because it has a sort of demonic type of vibe. You know how demon spirits or even vampires only come in when they're invited in? So yes, we do have that hint that Wally Darling is communicating with us, the viewer, via the file names and illustrations, but it furthers it by saying that by engaging with the project and the website, perhaps we're doing something more. To invite him, to do something, to come in, come out. Another thing we missed out was something that was pointed out in the comment section by Ensam Pibrock 278, specifically about Z's theory with the Axis Mundi, and how home could be acting as a panopticon. A panopticon is generally defined to be this concept of an all-seeing eye, a camera or a lens that surveys everything, typically seen in the prison setting. And in this case, home definitely fits the bill. For one, home's eyes seem to dart everywhere on the neighborhood page, and while we just thought it was home acting a little quirky, Ensam pointed out that they appear to be observing the neighborhood in all directions at all times, except for two blind spots, Frank Frankly's and Sally Starlet's house. Now, Ensam mentioned some guesses as to why, and we'll get to this when we discuss even more theories and the comment section later, but this does lead us to more questions. What exactly is Frank and Sally's place in all this, and why does everyone else need to be watched?
Going back to the idea of, thank you for letting me in, it kind of reminds me of that one portion of the Q&A, or the FAQ, was it?
Yeah.
Where wasn't there hidden text where it...
Yes, there was hidden text, when you
the
highlighted...
hidden text that said something along the lines of, does it hurt?
Yeah, that stands out a lot.
It does stand out a lot, giving the two contexts together. You let something in, and it hurts.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That's the first thing that stood out to me, honestly.
Yeah, this definitely opens more questions than answers.
It definitely opens a lot. Kind of like how you open your door to let in vampires. Also, big question, is Wally not a fan of garlic bread? Because if he's vampiric, does that mean he can't eat garlic bread?
That's so sad. But if he eats with his eyes, does that mean it'll just hurt his eyes?
Yeah, but another thing is, where were these things? How did we miss them?
They were actually from details around March 2. They're pretty early. I'm not sure how we missed them. They could be things that have changed Like, we probably saw an updated version where it wasn't as easy to find them.
Ah, that's true. That's true.
Because by the time we got to the website, there were already some changes that were made.
Yeah. Also, thank you for everybody who left a lot of information in the comments of the last video.
Especially Ensam Pibrock. There was a lot of information.
There was a lot of information. It really did help make this video. Really.
Additional theories. In our previous video, deep diving into Welcome Home, we introduced 3 possible theories regarding what in the hell is actually going on here. Obviously, with more observations, findings, and fan art, we managed to concoct even more theories. Director-producer's theory. This idea works alongside our recasting of Welcome Home, where we mentioned that the cast and crew of the show somehow turned into puppets. We can't really say who got turned into who and how this was even possible, but this is where Frank Frankly and Sally Starlet come in as the producer and director. It may be a little too on the nose for Sally, who is known to be a director for the show's theater-related skits, but there may be a hint that she's being forced into the role itself. Not to say that she doesn't like directing, but there is that mention that she's sort of put in those random mishap-type situations for comedy's sake. But for Frank Frankly, we thought of him as the producer because there's something different about him compared to the other characters in Welcome Home. For one, while every other character seems to have a note that they're not from home, the neighborhood, like they're from the forest, or an apple in the forest, or some unnamed place, Frank himself doesn't appear to have an origin or hometown that's noted, as far as we know at least. There's also that note that we mentioned before that any hint of logic or reasoning tends to be ignored by the other characters for comedic effect, but could it hint at something more? Would questioning the logic around the neighborhood be something that maybe isn't allowed? Maybe something that leads to some consequence?
This is one of the theories that we had to scrap from the original video, because there's a lot to consider here that wasn't as well refined back then, but now it's a little bit more. But I do have a question.
Yes.
Did they put themselves into this situation, or were they cursed into this situation?
I didn't think of that, because we always ask that.
It only occurred to me now, because who's putting Sally into that kind of situation and why? Like, if Sally was the director and Frank is the producer, why are they part of the show?
True.
Right? And why specifically the director? Like, why is the director the one being kind of tortured?
Tortured's a strong word, but I do wonder if we'll be getting that in an update.
Yeah. And that's another thing. That's another thing that I want to see from the updates. What is their part in Welcome Home as a show outside of that? Because with Frank, there's a lot, right? Like Julie's best friend, the possible relationship with someone, and basically everyone's mocking him for being kind of a smarty pants, right?
Yeah.
What do we know about Sally?
We don't know too much. We don't even have a lot of details about Sally yet.
Yeah.
We just know that she is not even from Earth.
Yeah. Which is another thing. She's not even from Earth.
Yep.
Where does she come from?
Fell from the sky, baby.
Yeah, is she like a fallen angel being tortured or something? I know, like, there were a lot of religious imagery removed here, but that's very specific still.
Spoilers for a brief mention later.
Yeah. Lastly, before we move on, going back to the idea of let me in and does it hurt? If, say, there was an entity that you let in, were they turned into the puppets because they let whatever it is in?
Oh.
Right?
Those are good points, by the way. It actually is a good segue into puppet purgatory. We have mentioned the concept of purgatory in the previous video, but just in passing, with some images that we've mentioned are no longer considered canon, but hear us out. This sort of works with our resurrecting Barnaby theory, but it expands it further from being just Barnaby to everyone else in home. This theory, of course, suggests that Welcome Home is a sort of purgatory, obviously a sort of limbo where spirits reside. And where else can these spirits reside than inside some puppets? And while many theories try to answer the question of what's currently happening to Welcome Home and what led to the sudden restoration project appearing, this particular theory tries to ask the question, what happened to the show in the first place, and what events led up to the cancellation itself. We see a few mentions in the guest book saying, oh, it's a shame what happened to the show, but we're never actually told what happens. So yeah, was it something intentional, or was it an accident?
So, what do you know about purgatory?
It's sort of the either in-between of heaven and hell, or generally what we got going around here, but another realm.
Yeah. From my understanding, is it kind of like a place where one soul goes into because like you're kind of in between
Yeah.
heaven and hell,
Yes.
and in order to get out, like people have to pray for your soul or something?
Yeah. Other times it's a place where your spirit like goes to when you have unresolved business.
Yeah, unresolved business, right? And
Yeah.
people pray in the living world to help you, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of remind you of something? It kind of hit me in the middle of recording, actually.
Oh yeah, what?
I wonder what it is. Do you guys know what I'm thinking about?
That's right. I don't. Wally?
Well, no, I just did it.
Oh, what?
I just did it. The whole thing. Like
The
when shows like this goes
oh my god.
breaking the third
fourth
wall, they're asking the audience to help them.
Oh my god, you're right.
Right?
Oh, that's so
it's
crazy.
It's kind of like
yes.
it's kind of like a prayer, that kind of thing. Or is that how it also works? Like,
it's like emphasizing the whole thing. Thank you for letting me in, and how Wally and the project itself lends itself to be interacted with.
Exactly.
Oh, crazy.
But
Let's
not just
go.
the project itself, like the actual show concept.
Yeah.
Say Blue's Clues or all that. I'm not sure if this is all correct or if this was intentional. It's just kind of a fun thing that I realized.
Or like Pappy Land.
What now?
Pappy drew it.
Okay.
Julie Joyful. Our third theory speculates that Julie Joyful and/or her family may be the masterminds of Welcome Home's horrors. There are only two places we see any mention of her family outside of the neighborhood. One is on her character page, and the other is this piece of art. And this piece is actually pretty interesting, given it's one of the few physical remnants that are shown, and it looks destroyed, like botched or meddled with somehow. It appears to have been manipulated to make it so one of the siblings behind Julie look almost demonic in nature. I mean, sure, they're technically all monsters, but the silhouette itself stands out. As for Julie herself existing in the neighborhood, well, she is the only one with horns, adding more credence to her being some sort of demon. There's also this photo of Julie having a little girl boss moment with Eddie, and now this detail is outside of the website and coming from Clown's Tumblr, but apparently Julie has this little game where she's the CEO of a failing company, and she would barge into the secretary's office and destroy everything, saying the company's in shambles, blah 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 blah. And it's all fun, playful, and silly, but you can't help but think that it may be foreshadowing something or even hinting at something more.
What are the other residents in Welcome Home? Specifically profession-wise. So we have Wally, who's the resident artist.
Yes.
Barnaby, who is the clown.
Howdy is a shopkeep. Sally is a director. Poppy Partridge, I know she lives in her little barn. She likes to knit. She likes to bake. That sort of thing.
Doesn't she also come up when they need to do some sort of creative aspect in the show?
Yeah. Yes, something like that. And with Eddie, who is also the arts and crafts guy, but he's also a mailman.
Mailman, right?
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a teacher. And there's Frank, who's the resident intellectual, I guess.
Yeah.
What's Julie?
Girl boss.
No. Really, think about
true.
it. Think about
what
it.
is Julie?
Because it adds to that idea that if everybody has some sort of role in Welcome Home. What's Julie's role? The only notable thing about her is that she's the happiest
True.
member of Home.
Could she be like the equivalent of what you call it? The business side of the creative project of Welcome Home?
But she's only playing pretend. That's very noted there.
That's true. She's just
So,
playing
like,
pretend.
And specifically the idea that like she pretends to be in a failing business.
Yeah, that stands out.
It stands out as very suspicious. And the first picture that was ever received, the very first one, by the guy curating the website, was the one of Julie and her siblings
Yeah.
that was destroyed, with the back character, her brother, presumably, being bigger, more
Jonesy.
menacing,
Yeah.
and more demonic. Not only that, isn't Julie the closest proximity to Home in terms of where she used to be? I mean, there's Howdy, who also lived in the
Yes.
woods, right?
Yes.
But she also lived in the woods, specifically with her siblings
True.
in a cave in the forest, right?
Yeah.
So everybody else came from somewhere else. Howdy, I don't know how to explain. Howdy's a caterpillar. He seems cool.
He's cool.
He seems cool.
I like that we're putting so much on Julie, and it's like, oh, Howdy also lives in the forest, and he's like, nah, he's cool.
Like, I'm not saying Julie may be the mastermind, but never trust a girl with pigtails.
She has a
Especially the big
ponytail.
poofy ones.
She has a ponytail.
Doesn't she have pigtails?
And like some art. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute. I have a ponytail.
Yes.
Before getting into some more theories that came from the comment section, we would like to thank today's sponsor, World Anvil. World Anvil is a site that allows you to write, organize, and publish rich settings and complex characters. Write, world build, and manage your stories all in one platform. And if you check out the link in the description below and use the code KoffeineYT, you can check out everything it has to offer for 40% off your first year. That's KoffeineYT for 40% off your first year. Now back to the video. Comment section. Discussions surrounding Welcome Home have not ceased since its initial blow-up, and on the video as well. So, here we're going to take a look into the observations and theories from you guys in the comment section. To start off, we've seen quite a few comments regarding the nature of Home and Wally. We have a comment from Butterlover suggesting that Home may be representative of the company itself, which is something that we actually completely overlooked in our discussion of Welcome Home somehow, since there is a bit of a mystery surrounding the company that owns Welcome Home, as there's very few remnants of the print and mention around the restoration project site. However, if this were the case, is it possible to pinpoint the company itself as the source of the evil? Could they be the antagonist, the victim, or something else? But if we were looking into the possible victims of Welcome Home, Wally sort of takes that, given his place in the main stage, the restoration project. There are many who consider him to be the victim in all of this, one way or another. Butter suggests that he may be puppeteered by this. Casey Magic Girl 1313 suggests that he may be held hostage himself and is trying to warn people somehow. But warn people about what exactly?
So the idea of Home being the company itself is something that we should have thought about when we first discussed this.
Yeah, with the Playfellow Workshop, I cannot believe we did not consider the Playfellow Workshop.
Yeah, adding to the idea that this is like, the director, the producer, all that. What if the whole company became trapped in some sort of limbo where they became a children's show? Like that it's right there. It's right there.
There's a possibility.
There's actually another piece of evidence that adds to this. Wally trying to soothe Home with a song. And what does Wally say after the song?
That's all Barnaby taught me. I don't know the rest of the lyrics.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, what if that's like kind of a commentary on like work stuff? Like, Wally being like the star child, the company's gem, you know.
The golden boy.
The golden boy, exactly. The more he goes up the ranks, the more overworked he is, all that kind of thing. Maybe I'm just projecting, but no matter what he does, it's not good enough. But they keep bringing him up to the point where he's the only one left, but it's not enough because he doesn't know everything.
That's an interesting take. I think I've seen a few AUs and comics that dive into that.
Yeah, I'm not into the AU, so I'm not too sure either.
Not even just the AUs, like the theory comics, as it were.
I see.
Yeah. Jason Dreamer's theories lean more towards the demonic ritual theory, which involves the whole aspect of resurrecting old friends to return. And now there are a huge number of AUs and headcanons that take this route, and for good reason, since there seems to be a lot of hints that Welcome Home is taking a darker turn akin to the demonic. We have also mentioned the idea of Wally trying to bring back his fellow neighbors, but not exactly in how he's going to do that and how they disappeared in the first place. Lilo and Stitch fan 926 has a theory regarding why they might have been eliminated, detailing each individual, which is quite impressive, but we're all still pretty much in the dark about it. Mike Ardem also notes that Sally Starlet may be a fallen angel, sort of adding to the more demon idea with, of course, an angelic counterpart. Now, none of these are currently canon since this is a developing project, but it's definitely a route that could maybe happen. And we're not sure if demons in a particularly religious sense are going to be coming up soon, but there's still a possibility that rituals may be involved.
A lot of religious imagery within Welcome Home was purged out of the project before it was canonized, right?
If I recall correctly, yes.
Yeah, because like my favorite image, the Baphomet kind of looking image, as above so below, was uncanonized as well. So I'm wondering how much of the idea of demons and fallen angels and all that jazz will actually play a part into Welcome Home, because it's still very much coded in.
Yeah, we're not sure about like the particular Christian religious identity of it, but who knows? Like,
it's very much coded in, and it's hard to ignore that certain parts of it does kind of echo demons, like some sort of satanic ritual of some sort of purgatory. Again, like going back to that idea of purgatory, it's all very religious, and going back to the idea of the Axis Mundi, like this is all very religious imagery. Are we still going to explore that theme? Like, was the purging not to remove it, but to hide it more?
Possible. I mean, we'll have to wait for the next update to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. And then we have this theory from Ensam, who we mentioned before regarding the panopticon theory / observation, but there's a lot more. You also notice a difference in Wally's eyelids, sometimes being depicted as red and other times blue, suggesting that this may be another distinguishing feature between the two in the dual Wally theory. While we don't fully understand or know why this is the case, nor can we pinpoint which Wally is which, there may be some meaning behind the distinction of colors. This can even move further into the idea of there being two Barnabys, or at least something important with the red and blue of his character, especially since we know Wally paints Barnaby's paws from one color to another in that one illustration. But again, we don't know which Wally is which, or even if the two Wallys are different and that one is good or the other one's bad, and we don't even know either of their intentions.
This actually was an original theory that we had, that we were going to include in the original video, but we scrapped it because there wasn't a lot of information that we could have use, but given this, it adds more to it. For context, this theory eventually turned into the dual Wally theory, but it started off as everybody having some sort of darker side, or as we called it, the grumpy neighbors.
Yes, it's kind of what inspired the grumpier illustrations that we had in our original video.
Yeah, because one of the things that we found was, say, one, apparently Frank has a tendency to get mad. He is also one of the only few residents that is depicted frowning.
Yes.
The other being Wally.
Yes.
That adds to the question, is there just one grumpy neighbor, or are they all two characters in the same role kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right? Like Barnaby's footprints. There's a set of blue, and then there's a set of red. What does that mean?
What does that mean? The paw print from the original video, we grasped onto that paw print like God.
Yeah, like, was it blood? Was it like Barnaby dead? Or with the idea of Wally having blue eyes, red eyes, is that also an indicator that there are two Barnabys? If that's the case, what happened? Is this like a doppelganger kind of thing? Like, where if you meet your own doppelganger, something bad happens?
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Is it a doppelganger situation?
I doubt it, but it I don't know, it's nice food for thought.
Yeah. Deep dives, new observations, new theories, AUs, and even OCs are being made every day. And it would be impossible to do a complete update on Welcome Home, at least before the site is back up, with actual new updates for us. So for now, while we wait for Clown to bless us once more with more to the story, we can only look back and see what else we missed, and how else we can try to predict the trajectory of the story. We can't say for sure what is and isn't canon, and we can't even predict the accuracy of any of our predictions. But we would like to thank everyone who joined in on the discussion and commented all these fascinating theories. Again, we even got a few more in our shorts, and we can't keep all of them in this video, otherwise it would be very long, but we really appreciate all of them, and we did use them to fuel this video, so thank you. This project is such a delight to look into, for the art of it, for the horror of it, the sheer passion of the project. So we highly suggest you guys go and support Clown or Party Coffin on their socials. We also suggest that you check out our previous video breakdown on Welcome Home if you'd like some more base information on the topic. And we'd like to thank our members, Butter and Shifter,
and our cafe producer, Nick.
And if you'd like to help support our channel as well, consider joining our memberships. Thanks for watching.